Welcome to the Traveling Professors. I'm Professor Bob.
And I'm Professor Sheri.
And together we are
the Traveling Professors.
Welcome to show number 78, a walking tour of Santorini, part 1. The arrival, the Atlantis Hotel, and Akrotiri. So we'll be going from Crete this time on a regular ferry to Santorini, and then we'll settle into our hotel, and then we'll head off to the Archaeological Site of Akrotiri and take a walking tour of that. Well, here's our trusty map of the Aegean Sea. So we're going to be leaving Herculon from Crete, and we're going to go straight to Santorini. There's nothing in between, it's just a straight shot. And this is a regular ferry. I had not been on a regular ferry before, and I was quite surprised how wonderful it was. Here is the ferry that we are taking, the Cosmote. We entered in, we go up to the top floor, and this is what you see. They have all of these rows of seats. There's all sorts of windows. There's where we're located in the second row. This is looking back from the kind of the coffee area, snack bar section. They have these on each of the different levels. And you can walk around and get pictures from the outside as well. So they're very comfortable, very relaxing. This is a fast ferry, so they move along at a pretty good pace. So here we are leaving port at Herculon. So we're going down, there's the jetty that goes out, and there's the opening that heads out into the sea. We left early in the morning, not early, but 9 o'clock, I believe. And here's our map of Santorini, and you can see the routes of the ferries. We're coming in from the south section, and we'll end up going to the same place where the tenders dropped us off when we were there on our cruise. Now, it's about a 2-3 hour trip by ferry. It may have been a little less than that. And of course, the earlier you buy your tickets, the cheaper the price is. So I think we ended up paying something like $40 a piece for a trip. Here's a nice aerial view. There's a volcano in the middle, and then we're going to be coming into right about over here. Now, it was kind of a hazy day when we came in, so here's some of the pictures from as we enter in. There's the volcanic island, and then there's the walls of the Caldera, which you can see in the haze. And then, of course, we dock, and then it's kind of a mad panic out. Now, I assumed that there would be a nice sign saying where the buses were and that sort of thing, but I couldn't find it. So we wandered around in the parking lot area for a while. The standard buses for the island are just exactly like the tourist buses that various groups use. So it's a little hard to see sometimes. So we ended up taking a taxi. It was about 20 euros. It wasn't that bad. So we get our usual trip up the side of the Caldera wall, so we're back behind the buses. And then here's a view of Fira, which is where we are headed. And then I was able to get a picture of our ferry as it was leaving to go to its next stop. And so we just kept winding our way out, and ultimately we end up back in Fira. Of course, taxi took us right up to the main part of the hotel. But if we'd had the bus would have brought us in a block south. I'd picked this location because you can literally just walk down the street and get a bus to anywhere on the island. So it was a really nice central location. Now, the Hotel Atlantis is one of the older hotels on the island. In its heyday, probably in the late 50s and 60s, it was one of the best places to stay. Now they have all sorts of different accommodations all over the island. You can spend thousands a night if you want to. I believe Sheri and I spent $225 a night to stay here, and we also got breakfast as well. The location was just fine. We could easily get, the bus. We could get taxi if we wanted to. We could walk to the places that we wanted to see in Fira. It was a really good location. The people were really friendly. And so we walk in, and here's one of the reception areas where you can come in and stay. Of course, everything on this hotel is pointed out to the Caldera and the volcano. I mean, you can't do anything without seeing it. So here's a view. Again, it was hazy on that day when we came in, but you can see the Caldera. This is one of the areas where you can go and have breakfast in the morning. Breakfast area if you wanted to eat inside. They do not have a restaurant here, but that's really not a problem. There are restaurants everywhere. However, probably should have reservations. We ended up having some fast food because we waited too long to go out and get something to eat. So we walked down the stairs, see what was down below, and they have an indoor-outdoor swimming pool. Then we went back up the stairs to our room. You walk in. The gentleman who had escorted us up to our room, after we set our bags down and whatever, he then walked over, parted the curtains, opened the door, and here's our view. So we have a nice little veranda out there. We can sit and look at the island. We can watch the sunset, and it's just absolutely stunning. We had breakfast here, by the way, every morning. There's a view of the rest of the room. It's a standard room. The beds were actually, you couldn't put them together, so Sheri and I were in college here for a little bit. Nice bathroom, but who cares about anything? This is the view. Later in the afternoon, the sun came out, burned off the haze. So here we are looking at the area where the ships came in. And then here's the volcanic island, which we'll be visiting in our next show. And then there's a view looking out to where the sun sets. So we were looking forward to a nice, relaxing time here. Well, once we settled into our hotel room and we're ready to go to visit Akrotiri. Been wanting to see this for quite some time because in my Western Civ class, I talk about the Minoans and I talk about the eruption of the volcano and, of course, how it changed Aegean Sea trade account. Now, this map, which is one of them I use in class, shows the Aegean at the time where you have Troy, Crete, Mycenae. Fira, Santorini, would be right here. And this spot right there. We know it's a Minoan site as a result of the excavation. We also now know there's Minoan sites on the Peloponnesus, as well as some of the other islands. Now, the earliest history of habitation on Akrotiri goes back to 5000 BCE, when it was simply a small fishing and farming village. By 3000 BCE, the community developed and expanded. And one of the factors in its expansion is the trade relations. Now, if you look at this particular map, our modern map that I've used quite frequently, and look where Santorini is located. It is pretty much in the center of where you have various cultures for trade. And they have found fragments of foreign pottery from all over the Aegean Sea, even Egypt. It's a strategic position. It's a great sailing route that runs between Cyprus and, of course, then there's one that runs from Minoan Crete. Of course, you're also going to have the Mycenaeans up here, and you can also reach Egypt. It's a copper center. The area was used for processing copper. They have discovered molds and crucibles on the island. So it's a big trade center. This whole area in the Bronze Age is mixing all this material around. Then, of course, what happens is what we see in this map. This is a map from a National Geographic where they discussed the destruction of the island of Santorini, Thera. Everything was going fine on the island until 16th century BCE, when you have a massive volcanic eruption. And this shows the shaded areas where the ash and stuff would have been blown out. But if you were in Egypt or in Greece or anywhere else in the Aegean, you would have seen this take place. Now, there is a variety of dating evidence for this eruption. The exact year is not quite known. Radiocarbon dating places the most probability between 1620 and 1530 BCE, which is also in accord with the date range of 1570 to 1500 BCE suggested by the similarities of the cultural material found in other sites. There is another study which showed unusual growth patterns in tree rings that are found in 1597, 1560, 1546, and 1544 BCE that are consistent with a major volcanic event in any of those years. Those last 3 years, 1560, 1546, and 1544, are probably the best candidates because the Egyptian New Kingdom records refer to a massive eruption around this period. So we are going to go, here's our map of the island today. So we're going to go from Fira, and we're going to go down here to Akrotiri. Now there is another Minoan site on the coast by the beaches. I have not been there. Now to get there, we're going to take a bus. You could have taken a taxi, but we're going to take a bus. So we walk down the street to the bus station. They have a schedule of when the buses are supposed to run, and you can pick up a ticket, but it's really kind of first come, first serve. So you want to get there early. And so we waited for the buses to come in, and they'll have a number on the bus, but that bus is probably doing something else, so they changed the signs out. Eventually, we found our bus, which is right here. And it's going to take us to the site where Akrotiri is, but you get a double dip. It also is there's a site on the other side of the road, which is the Red Beach. Go to that particular area. Here's where we stopped to get out, and we're heading towards Akrotiri. If you wanted to go the other direction, here is what the Red Beach looks like. We never did get there. We're going to have to go there the next time. So we start walking onto the archaeological site. Here's the nice map. Now this has been an archaeological site in other parts of the island in 1867. and then 1895 to 1900. But this site was discovered in 1967 by a man named Spiridon Marinatos, and he was just incredibly lucky. He believed that there was a city here. He just had to convince people to let him dig. And within a few hours of his beginning of the excavations, they discovered part of the buried city. And so that's what we're going to be looking at. So we walk from the main area where the bus dropped us off. This is the walk up to the center. There's a whole series of buildings. And then here you see places where you can get your tickets, take a rest. And then this is the area where we walk into the building. Now this is completely covered. Now, they put a modern roof on it. They started and it was almost finished in 2005, and then it collapsed and killed one of the visitors. Now, there was no damage to the antiquities, but the site was then closed to visitors until April of 2012. An excavation stopped in 2005, and that was because of a lack of funding, and they only began resumption of the excavation in 2016 with the support of sponsors from around the world. And we were there in 2016. And here's two versions of the site looks like. It is a really confusing structure to see on the inside. This looks really easy. You know, it looks like you just, oh, we'll come in here in the front. We'll just start walking down the road. No, you can't do that. You can walk all the way around, and then there's places where you can then go into different sections. But it is possible to start up here at the top and eventually work your way down to the front, and then you have to move either off to one side or the other to get back out again. And then here's a chart that shows some of the different sites. But the house up here at the top is where they found the first materials. So here we are walking into the building where Akrotiri is completely covered, at least this part of the excavation. You see the table there, and that is a model of the whole site. So here is the whole site. So we would be standing right here in this particular picture. And what we are going to do is I'm going to look off this side, give you an idea what it looks like from over there, because we're up above it. And then we're going to walk over to the end and then begin working our way up. Ultimately, we will get at the top, and then we will begin walking down right here, down the middle to the front, and then there's an exit that goes over here and an exit that goes this way, or you have to go back the other way. And one of the things that you'll notice is, as we go through this, that everything is pretty much the same color because of the volcanic ash that was just piled on top of this place. The volcanic ash is in some places on the island 90 feet thick, and it is in different layers depending on the time of the eruption of the volcano. Pyroclastic flows will then move like rivers, and that's why you don't have the biggest building in here is almost 2 stories, but a lot of that would have been sheared off. So here we are looking to the left of where that model started. You can see the divisions. There's the wall, and there's some of the excavation. Then I'm moving a little closer, and you see these individual buildings, and they have them marked in delta and beta and alpha, and then they have building numbers on them. Most of these buildings, the objects have been removed to the museum, either on the island or in Athens. So here's the middle, down towards the back. And then now I'm looking off to where we're headed. So this is the distance from where that map section was all the way down to the wall. So as you walk by, you see all of these different ruins. And then you come to the edge and you can see some of the destroyed buildings. And then as we get around the corner, one of the things that you can see, which is this spot right here, notice the steps between the 2 walls and how they've been crushed from the movement of the earth. This is not quite as pronounced as one that we'll see later in the middle of the site. And then as we turn that corner, then we look all the way to the back. And it's pretty daunting to see this because from my organizational standpoint of viewing the site really makes it difficult. What happens is you'll reach a point, and this is a perfect example of it here. You'll reach a point where you can move down onto the site, but you can't go very far. You just can't wander through the site. And the reason for that is they're still doing archaeological work. But it's hard to get good pictures. It wasn't cloudy when we were there. It was nice and sunny. So this is about as much light as you're going to get inside the building. So from this map over here, we started right in this direction. I looked over here, and then I moved around, and then we're final one is here. And then we're going to walk all the way up to the top. So here we are at the top of the site, and we're actually going to be walking down through the town. This is usually the vantage point that you find most pictures taken. So from our map, we're at the very top, which is the pottery place, and then we'll just come straight down. So here is this was one of the first places excavated, and it was full of pottery. You can see the various crater jars in the corners and the sides. There's one of them with some beautiful artwork on it. The ones in the museum that came out of here, absolutely stunning. There's another view, so that we've gotten a nice little shot of all of the area associated with the pottery building. And then we just keep kind of head on down, and one of the next things that we come to, and you can see in this picture, people standing up where we had been, and there's one of the access points. We turn, and here is another building, and this one, notice the area where the steps are located. Here's a closer shot of the steps. You see how they're just absolutely crushed. That takes a lot of pressure to do that. Another thing that happens is when they excavated this site, it appeared that the volcano erupted and then calmed down, because it appears that the people came back, because in this main stretch that we're walking down, they found piles of rubble, where as if the people had swept the streets clean and then piled the rubble to be removed later. And then the volcano then eventually erupted again, and this time blows its top. There are no bodies that have ever been found. So they evidently were very attuned with the frequency of that volcano. So as we go down through, you see they have to put some supports in to keep walls up. And here you get a nice shot of the walkway. This does widen in a couple of places. And then we come to a narrow point where you can see the excavated buildings. And they put some reinforcing timbers in, as they would have been. So you have, there's the second story, there's the first story, or ground floor and first story, if we're in Europe. And then as we walk by, you can see there's the front that we saw first, and then it has a bigger window and two smaller areas. And then this particular location was interesting because I have a video that shows the use of ground-penetrating radar, and they had run it over this to see whether it was hollow on the inside, and they just needed to move the debris, which is what it was. So here we are again, looking down. We're heading towards the front. See how elevated the front is. We have to go through a tunnel to get to another side. So you have the doorways. And a lot of these buildings had stuccoed paintings on the inside. The monkey, the flowers, and a variety of others. They have been carefully removed and are in the museum. Here's Sheri looking into one of the rooms. They have pottery in here. Then we come down to the end, go up on the side to get kind of a side shot. And at this point, you can see this gigantic water basin, this bath that's sitting here. There's a closer shot of it. This is a shot from the corner as we're getting ready to leave to get back to the opening and the entrance. But all of these rooms have different numbers on them, and whatever objects were found in them are marked on those signs. And then here's looking again out through some of the buildings, and notice you see this one section where it's not a set of stairs, it's the supports between the walls and how it's skewed off to one side. So that was our walking tour of Akrotiri. After leaving the excavation, we walked to the bus route, and on the way, we ran into what I like to refer to as the mayor of Akrotiri, the local cat. And then we simply waited here for the bus to come in. Now, I would suggest to you that you not wait to take the last bus, because you have people coming from the beach as well as people coming from the archaeological site. And so the first bus that went by because it was full. Fortunately, the second bus was in better shape. So we went back to the hotel and got this nice first sunset view from our hotel room. So there's the volcano, which is where we're going to be going on our next little journey. And then there's a view looking out towards Oye and the setting sun, which unfortunately is cloud covered. Here is a view shooting out of our window earlier with the sun beginning to set. Sheri and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please come by our YouTube channel at Bob Packett, and please subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you very much. I've been doing podcasting on history for over 15 years. I've got over 4,000 shows, and I've done CDs, which of course can be sent out as USBs. So if you would really like to get more on history for free, then come by my website, as you see here, historyaccordingtobob.com, and see what's there. So thank you very much again.